He took a deep breath, then spoke to her in almost a whisper. "I have a break in an hour. Would you like to get something to eat? My treat." Her eyes widened. They were an incredibly bluish gray. "That sounds great," she said. "Why don't I meet you at the beer garden? Lots of tables there." His words seemed to stick in his throat, but he was able to spit out, "Yeah, okay." She and her friend settled into the ride's car, and he could hear them giggling as the large wooden doors swung shut behind them. Then their laughter turned into screams, a cacophony of terror that echoed throughout the old structure. The ghost shack always seemed to frighten anyone brave enough to venture inside. When the car came out through the double exit doors, he unlatched the metal bar that had kept the girls safely inside. She stepped out, then looked back at him and called, "Don't forget!" She blew a kiss in his direction before walking away, her hips swinging. He turned his attention to the people next in line, feeling happier than he had in his entire life. Minutes felt like hours until it was time for his break. When Buzz finally arrived 5 minutes late, he was ready to throttle him, but he just handed over the ride and nearly ran to one of the Carney games. He'd remembered that one of the prizes was a little stuffed dog holding a daisy. When you pressed its paw, it sang, "Daisy, Daisy, give me your answer due. I'm half crazy, all for the love of you." He asked the Carney, a guy named Mike who'd been a friend of his father's, if he could have one and pay for it later. "Is it for that girl you've been liking all this time? I seen her go by here earlier." "Yeah, she's gonna meet me over at the beer garden." Mike handed him the stuffed toy and told him to forget about paying for it. He smiled and thanked him. This really was the best day of his life. Before entering the beer garden, he stopped to smooth his hair and brush off his clothes. He was wearing one of his best shirts because he'd hoped she'd show up while they were here. Then he squared his shoulders and walked to the garden, quickly spotting her sitting at a picnic table. His face grew warm with anticipation. He sat down beside her, smiled, and handed her the dog. "I got this for you. When you press his paw, he sings. It made me think of you. Of your dress, I mean." She pressed the dog's paw, and as they listened to the song, she laughed. "I forgot to ask your name," he said when the song ended. But instead of answering him, she looked into his eyes. "Would you like to kiss me?" He nodded, unable to speak around the lump in his throat. Hadn't she noticed his scar? Would she change her mind if she did? Then something in her expression startled him, but by the time he realized what it was too late. Someone behind him poured soda over his head, and then both she and the girl who doused him started giggling. Several of her friends came out from behind the food stand, and they all began laughing hysterically. "What a freak," the girl said. "How could you think someone like me would be interested in you?" Then she stood and rejoined her friends, tossing the dog in a nearby trash can. As their laughter grew and others around him joined in, a seed of hatred was planted deeply in his heart. Chapter 1. 15 years later. The abandoned amusement park reminded Logan of an aging bride waiting for a bridegroom who never came. From this vantage point, he and Jeff could see Alex get out of her car and walk toward the entrance of a building that looked like it was ready to collapse at any moment. Why had the FBI given its permission for this to happen? It was too dangerous. With the sun slowly slipping out of sight, the park was beginning to disappear into the dusk. He glanced at Jeff. If his jaw were set any tighter, his teeth would crack. Jefferson Cole, unit chief of BAU-4 at Quantico, wasn't afraid of much. But he and Logan were more than afraid. They were terrified. What if this went wrong? What if Alex didn't make it out? They watched as she hesitated at the entrance to the dilapidated ghost shack, then reached into her jacket pocket and removed a small flashlight. She appeared to look up to where they'd parked. She couldn't have known he and Jeff were there, though. This wasn't protocol. But Logan's feelings for Alex had forced him to be here, at this place, with her. If he'd had his way, it would be him walking into the forsaken building that had once